Hey guys, what's up? Evan from Stock Music Musician here, and I just wanted to take a second to do a review of Skrok Music's Orbis synth. It's a pretty fun synthesizer. I'm going to play a few chords in the background here. That's where this really excels, is as a pad and chord type synthesizer. And it's a great companion with another synth that Skrok Music makes, the Solaris. And you can check that out on the link there. I think they really complement each other well. Solaris more for leads, Orbis more for pads and keys. And if you look at the playlist that there's a link to, I've done demos of a lot of the Orbis sounds, pretty much all of the ones that are default out of the box. And I would say that by and large, it's a really fun synth, especially for the price. And it's got this great, it's got a lot of control over the keyboard and aftertouch that just feels really good. Good sounds, especially on the keys. The leads and the basses are a little bit weaker, I think, than some of the other synths that I've played around with. And it very much has that 80s vintage vibe. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's not for modern sounding synths. I don't think it does it very well. In a second, I'm going to show you how the synth actually operates, what some of the knobs do. I'm going to give a brief tutorial. But if you haven't done so yet, please take a second to like and subscribe to this channel and like this video, and let me know if there's any other rack extensions that you'd like me to profile or do a review of. I'm not a great piano player, but I find this keyboard here, this synthesizer, a rack extension, to be something that's pretty inspiring. As somebody who's principally a guitar player, I find that the stock sounds in it are very usable. They're the type where I can start playing and get interesting ideas very quickly. And if you have like the desire, for example, to do a Stranger Things type track, I'll show you how this synth and the Solaris really inspired me to make that sort of sound. And it's just kind of something that if you own it, you want to pick it up and play with it, which I can't say about all synthesizers. But as I'll show you in more detail in a minute, I don't think the interface is great on it. Unlike other synths, there's not as much of a reason. I guess it doesn't really seem to reward fiddling. A better way of saying it is that it totally rewards fiddling with the knobs and tweaking sounds. However, I don't think it's as intuitive or welcoming as other synthesizers. And there's a few reasons for that I'm going to get into. But right now I'm going to start with a fresh patch, and we can sort of start looking at the way it works with its 4 oscillators, and then its filters and LFOs and that sort of thing. And I think we'll play around with one or two more pads, but I just love how the attack can sound different, and then the tail also sounds different, which is great. But that's a beautiful sound there. We gotta admit that. Welcome to the lounge. Okay, so now I think it's time to just start digging into what the synthesizer actually does. And there's a lot of knobs there, which is really off-putting. But basically there's 4 rows along the left, which are all identical. They've got a variety of wave forms that you get to choose from. And then this slider here controls where on the wave you are. But it's kind of lame that you can't left click on that number there and actually choose by the shape of the waveform. You just have to choose by the number. And you can add up to 4 other oscillators and layer them, different shapes, different sounds, different tuning, different volumes. Again, a thing I don't like is that the values are displayed as percentages or absolute values as opposed to just whole tones. To me, that would be more interesting than something that says 1200 or minus 300. I assume 100 is a whole step, but I'd rather just have a knob for whole steps and a knob for semitone control. And you have the option of re-triggering any of them when you first hit the key. And the spread controls for controlling how wide or narrow the pan each individual sound has. Then you've got a filter which goes on top of everything. It can be band pass, high pass, low pass, or all three. You can hear me sweeping it there. And control how much the envelope goes to it. This is a really cool feature here. It's got the high shelf, which is basically just a really high EQ. You can see how it's just adding a bunch of almost air and hiss to a sound. You can choose from 8 to 1 voices, but there is no legato option, which is kind of annoying. I think there's certain sounds that sound really good when you're only able to play one note, but they sort of cancel each other out, and it doesn't do that. You can control how much the filter envelope and the LFOs affect each individual oscillator, which is cool. But these knobs are all kind of small, hard to read, and they don't go to 0 as easily as you would like. Sometimes I found that when I start experimenting with them, especially the ones where 0 is at 12 o'clock, it's hard to get it back to 0. It wants to be at like -3 or +1, which is kind of annoying if you want to dial it in. You'll also notice there's no inputs anywhere. You can do it, as a combinator, but it's kind of annoying not to be able to at least access the most important things with a CV. And also there's no modulation wheel. So that's it. I really like this synth, but it's certainly far from perfect. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.